Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Dubpace here. I'm making a tanking guide for the brand new WoW Classic Raid ZG aka Zul'Gurub that just dropped. And so here it is, the WoW Classic Zul'Gurub tanking guide. And without further ado, let's jump right into the first boss here. This is High Priestess Jeklik, and for the most part, you can relax. This is a typical tank and spank. I pop all my cooldowns right in the beginning of the fight to surge ahead on the threat. The melee positions in, and it's important that you face the boss away from the melee due to her cleave ability. Position the hunters slightly away from the rest of the casters. If they're at a closer range, it seems that Jeklik charges the hunters first if they are at a closer range than the casters here on the left. And other than that, the fight is relatively simple. If your DPS is not fast enough, it's possible that the bat ads will spawn and the bat ads will drop fire. Obviously, get out of the fire if it's on anybody. And that's pretty much the fight. Watch out for the AoE silence that goes out around the boss. And in addition, there's some pre-spells that happen, like Jeklik tries to heal. Just make sure to interrupt that, and you should be in very good shape for this boss. Not hard hitting, easy to tank. And we're jumping right into the second boss here. You see that I pull it by first popping a Greater Stone Shield potion, as if you get hit with all of the ads all at once, it can spell big problems. And the number one thing that I will say for this boss is that don't do what I was doing in this video. The positioning should be different. High Priest Venoxis should be tanked away from the ads that are being AoE'd down, and Venoxis also should not be tanked as close to the raid, or else what just happened will happen again. If you go back, you'll see all of these people just got insta-killed by Venoxis's chain lightning ability. So it's better to pull this boss away. You see I immediately move my positioning back, and other than that, that's pretty much the fight. He turns into a big snake boy in phase 2, around 50%, and he'll leave a fart cloud behind him, maybe one or two of them during the fight. Just make sure to move Venoxis out of the cloud so that your melee DPS can keep pumping. And this is another simple boss. Good luck, have fun. Make sure to position properly, unlike me. Okay, the next boss is High Priestess Marley, aka the Spider Boss. This boss is relatively simple. For the pull, just assign an off tank to pick up the speaker that is in front. Assign your mages to AoE down the ads, and just tank the boss exactly where she is, right at the bottom of the stairs. I hate to report it, but this is pretty much a tank and spank. I just pop all of my cooldowns and I go ham. There is potentially a phase 2 to this fight if your damage is not fast enough, where you will get rooted as the tank, and your off tank will need to be with the casters to pick up the boss and bring it back to you. Chances are, in classic WoW, everyone's DPS is high enough, you're never even going to reach this. There's a poison bolt volley, your shamans will be taking care of this, or if your alliance people will be dispelling the poisons, and there's a drain life that should be interrupted as well if you can help manage it. But in general, this is a tank and spank. The boss doesn't hit hard. Just pop all your cooldowns, go ham, see how much damage you can pump out, and collect your loot right afterwards. This is a great boss. All right, the next boss that we're going to be checking out is one of the optional bosses, Bloodlord Mandokir. Bloodlord Mandokir, this guy follows the typical Mortal Strike warrior archetype. He has Mortal Strike, uses Demoralizing Shout, he hits super hard. For positioning, just position him away from the casters, and you should also meet up with your off tank so that the melee can cleave the raptor at the same time. This increases damage, it makes the boss fight a little bit faster. It's just a nice idea to get in that habit. Other than the random charge and picking the boss back up, the only other mechanic really is the threatening gaze, in which Bloodlord Mandokir, he fixates on one raid member, and if that raid member moves at all or casts a spell or attacks, he will essentially one-shot you. So It didn't happen to me in the first ZG, but if this can get cast on the tank, I thought about it. What you should do is just press escape, stop auto attacking, and then just hands off the keyboard until it's over. Make sure you call out in Discord, let the raid know that if you're not super far ahead on threat, they need to pull back on pumping DPS, and let your healers know that you're not doing any mitigation skills or anything like that. So I think clear communication will solve that problem if it comes up. But other than that, this is a very simple boss. It's sort of a gear check because he hits hard. You might want to prioritize wearing more mitigation gear rather than threat gear on this fight. Although I tanked this in full threat gear here, and it ended up being perfectly all right. For the most part, this is a tank and spank, but I strongly suggest you do not skip this boss because you want a chance at that raptor mount. Let me know if anyone gets that in the comments. That's sick. The next boss that we're going to be covering is the Tiger Boss, aka High Priest Thekal. Right on the pull, you can tank the main boss himself and assign off tanks onto Lorkhan and Zath. The general idea of phase 1 of this fight is that you're going to batch all 3 of these bosses up all together. You're going to AoE them down, and then you want to kill them all at the exact same time. So it's very similar to a Core Hound pack in Molten Core, and there is not anything super significant to know in this phase of the fight. The only caveat that I'll say is I assigned a rogue to help with Lorkhan, because Lorkhan does have a heal that needs to be interrupted. Hopefully your damage remains pretty even. It is super important to kill these at the same time. Otherwise, I believe they reset back to full health. So you can see here, the heal was just interrupted, and all 3 of these ads are about to go down all at the same time. When you kill everything, Thekal goes straight into Tiger mode, and the only significant thing in the Tiger mode is A, increased damage, and B, there's also a knockback. So make sure to position your back to the wall. I had seen in other videos that the knockback did a full threat wipe, but you'll see here in the video, it doesn't seem to wipe my threat. It might be a threat reduction. I'm going to keep a close eye on the threat meter here, and it doesn't even look like a threat reduction. So this fight, for the most part, is a tank and spank. You see the enrage at the very end there, but that's execute range, so your warriors are going to take care of it. It's a fun fight. Good luck on the Tiger mount. All right, the next boss that we're going to be checking out here, this is a different kind of cat boss. This is the Panther boss, High Priestess Arlokk. After ringing the gong, Arlokk will spawn in the middle of the room and immediately pick it up by popping your cooldowns. And advise your off tank to be fighting to be number 2 on the threat meters, because when you get gouged, which just happened right there, the boss will temporarily turn to the number 2 on threat and then turn back to you after the gouge is over. That's pretty much the only mechanic you need to watch out for in phase 1, other than ensuring that the Panthers are not killing Clothies, which they shouldn't be. And after Arlokk turns into the big Panther, she's going to disappear and vanish. One person's going to be marked. You should be helping to DPS the ads that are going toward the marked raid member, and you can be leading the charge for your melee DPS here. You'll also note that a lot of people around the room, especially Clothies, have their backs to the wall, because when the boss reemerges, Arlokk can target a random raid member with a ambush-like ability. And you don't want your healers to get one shot, because that could be problematic to have you tank the boss for the rest of the time. The second phase seems to just be a predetermined amount of time. All the Panthers die within a few seconds, and it's a nice time to be building rage, getting ready for the boss to come back out. When the boss comes back out, I threw a taunt on the boss immediately, threw some Sunders in, and just started generating threat as fast as I could here. You'll see them facing everything away from the raid. I do believe that there's a cleave that's happening, but at this phase, you should just be burning the boss, assign your mages and possibly warlocks as well to help AoE down the loose panthers that are everywhere, and everyone else burn the boss as fast as possible so you can get the panther situation under control. This is one of the harder fights, but it's a fun one. Hope you enjoy. All right, the next boss that we're going to be covering here, this is Jin'do the Hexxer, who I do believe is another optional boss. One quick note from the very beginning, I don't believe you need to pull all of those ads with the boss. I think you can pull the ads first and then the boss next. It's my fault that we got the boss with this pull. So experiment with that. Don't do what I did. And if you'll watch, the main mechanic of this fight seems to be that Jin'do is a shaman archetype. So he summons two different types of totems. He summons healing totems and these mind control totems. It is necessary to switch to these totems right as they spawn, and the DPS will be switching, so you might as well switch too as the tank, because your DPS aren't going to be building up threat on the boss while they're DPSing down the totem, and the faster that the totem dies, the easier this fight is going to be. So I do suggest, even as the tank, you should help with the totems as well. My good buddy Grim Chief actually gave me a really good tip for positioning, which is that you can actually position your casters in the pit with the skeletons, so that you can continuously keep the ads cleared in there while DPSing the boss. And you don't need to worry about one person like a healer getting teleported in there, and then the healer is getting beat down, not healing the tank, and then, you know, some bad stuff can happen. If you want to simplify the fight, you could try out that positioning, but make sure no matter what, you guys are DPSing down the totems. This boss does not hit particularly hard. If you do have the curse, I think it's good to maybe kill one or two ads, even as the tank, the Shades of Jin'do, just so that they don't get out of control. But those are all the mechanics. It's a relatively simple fight, easy loot, and I wish you guys luck. On the topic of optional bosses, we're adding in the fishing boss that needs to be fished up here, Gahz'ranka, who I suppose is Gahz'rila's not-so-distant cousin. As you can see here, the primary mechanic of Gahz'ranka is this huge knockback in the air via his water geyser spell. And to combat this, I had heard a rumor that you could go deep enough underwater that you don't actually get shot in the air. But you'll see in the video, I try out this technique. I'm not able to make it work. No matter what, you go flying. But from a tanking perspective, after you go flying in the air, there does seem to be some sort of a threat wipe. You'll see that the boss does turn onto the DPS. This boss is tauntable. I didn't realize this in the beginning of the fight, but you should just leave your taunt off cooldown so that when you do get knocked in the air and you land back in the water, you can taunt the boss and ensure that you're going to have the aggro right away. Throughout the fight. It's very much just a tank and spank fight with the fun of flying through the air and swimming through the water, so there's no need to complicate this one. In terms of the type of gear that you should be wearing, you would think that a boss that's this big would hit super, super hard. I would say the most amount of damage that I was really taking is maybe 2,000 damage in 1 second. Your healers should be able to handle this even with full threat gear. And I did pop a Greater Stone Shield potion. It's not a bad idea just to be safe, but for this fight, you could probably get away with not using the potion at all. Just let your healers know what's going on. And we did have some people die in this fight. Like I said, it is important to use your taunt on cooldown. This video, if you rewind, it serves as a decent reminder of what happens if you're not taunting at the proper times, because I do believe these deaths were 100% preventable by me. So make sure you're doing your job. All right, and just like that, we've made it to the final boss of Zul'Gurub, Hakkar. For Hakkar, this is one of the, I would say, only real bosses in the dungeon. It is very important for your off tank to be building threat underneath you because this boss is not tauntable. And there is a mind control mechanic which is not dispellable, and in fact it is best that you CC your tank. So right now I start calling for CC in Discord. Otherwise you're gonna mess up the range, the casters, the healers, and then Hakkar will flip to whoever is number 2 on threat during that time. This is really just a 2-tank fight, so the off tank gets, the main tank gets mind controlled, the off tank picks it up, the main tank comes back, does a little bit of damage, gets mind controlled, and then it continues this process over and over and over. The only thing that adds another wrench into the toolbox here is the mechanic of Blood Siphon, which you can see counting down on my DBM here. Right before Blood Siphon goes off, it is a good idea to pull one of these Son of Hakkars, which you can see I'm standing right on top of right now, and make sure that even as the tank, if you can, get this poison before going back in and picking up the boss, because the poison will allow Hakkar to suck in the poisoned blood. I'm sure most of you guys have seen the mechanic, but I will mention that I do think it's valuable for the tank to adhere to this mechanic as well, even though it's not strictly necessary. The other thing that I'll say is that this boss hits very hard. I do actually end up dying at the end of this fight, at the very end. And I will say that this pull was pretty shaky. We did one-shot this boss. This was not a multi-attempt boss, and this was the first attempt that we tried. We were sort of working our way through the mechanics, but the most important thing is just the tank swap with the mind controls, and then ensuring that everybody gets poisoned before the Blood Siphon. I do think that it's possible. You could probably pop Recklessness at the beginning of this fight and instruct all of your DPS to pop their cooldowns as well. And I'm sure that a BWL geared group with some heavy pumpers can kill Hakkar before the first Blood Siphon even goes off. Another thing that I've heard is some groups just completely ignore the mechanic altogether of getting poisoned for the corrupted blood because he heals a little bit and who cares? You guys can just damage right through it. I mean, a lot of people in Classic WoW outgear this fight by now. I think that it will be relatively simple as long as you call on Discord for the crowd control to happen when you get mind controlled, as long as the off tank is there to pick up the boss, and as long as your healers switch properly between off tank and main tank depending on whomever gets aggro. It's relatively simple, and with that boss dead, you are done with ZG. Congratulations, guys. And that's it for this video. Please, if you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next video.